Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion slash speculation video. And guys, if the audio sounds a little bit weird, please just ignore that, honestly. A little bit of hard times with this audio, getting this video together. But anyway, guys, before I introduce my guest, before I do that, I want you to all go into the description section below and hit that link to his channel. Please make sure to go subscribe to this guy, show him some love. He does some amazing power scaling and everything. Lots of real research, lots of really awesome videos, really well edited. And, you know, guys, just please make sure to go do that. He does some really good work. But anyway, my guest today, first time on this channel, first time of us doing a collab together, but please say hello, the Golden Scouter. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Real? I appreciate the praise. Very high compliment.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely, guys. Go make sure to check him out. He does some pretty good power scaling. I know there's a lot of power scalers out there, but I mean, there's always a chance. Go see what other people's opinions are for certain things where, you know, it's so open to interpretation. Maybe you like one person, maybe you like the other. I happen to like him. He's a nice guy. He does some really good content. Anyway, so, Scouter. We are talking today about something that you and I were discussing the other day. Basically, how are we going to use power scaling in general in the Universal Survival Arc, or the Omniversal Tournament, whatever you want to call it. Honestly, if you ask me, and I'm sure a lot of people know, Super's been very, very difficult to power scale. You want to talk about that? You want to say, like, kind of give people ideas of why Super is hard to power scale?
Oh, definitely. Super is very hard to power scale. I mean, I didn't even think of the fact that Goku is stronger now in his base Super Saiyan Blue form than he was in his Kaioken times 10. So, I mean, facts like those are kind of hard to wrap your mind around. So that's just for starters.
I wouldn't have even imagined that. I don't know how that's possible, but maybe you could explain it a little bit after this call. But yeah, guys, maybe like if you go over to his channel, tell him maybe he'll explain that a little bit more, because my mind's blown. I'm not a power scaler, man. I'm sorry.
I actually found out about that from a different YouTuber. So my specialty is not necessarily power scaling Super, but more power scaling Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
So if you like manga-based power levels and using that as your only source for justification, I think you'll like what I do.
That's true. I feel like, and guys, I think that's actually really nice to look at, because I mean, he'll even say in his videos that he doesn't necessarily look at like the filler or all the other stuff from the anime that kind of puts all the power scaling in a little bit of a crazy wackiness. But anyway, moving on. So we have this kind of up in the air power scaling for Dragon Ball Super at this point. We don't necessarily know who's strong or who's not strong, or just how strong some of the weaker people are. And I'm just wondering, are we going to get something more simplistic in order to power scale this Universal Survival Arc? Make it a little bit easier for us to power scale, or at least kind of interpret, you know, how strong is Master Roshi? How strong is Krillin? How strong are all these other people compared to each other and everyone else we're going to fight? And so I was talking with Scouter, and we were talking about, you know what? Like, you remember that scene in Yu Yu Hakusho where they're talking about how after the Dark Tournament, Togoro and all them were like B+ or B demons and everything, and they had this easy little grading scale to determine it, like D, C, B, A, S or something like that. I was wondering, what would you like? You think that's a good idea going forward for this tournament, in order to take one person like Master Roshi and probably give him some kind of an easy rating instead of like some crazy number power scaling? What are your thoughts on that, man?
It definitely would help us understand where everyone stands in relation to each other. But I don't really like the idea of power levels now. But like you were saying, I really do love the idea of the ranking system. Like, maybe they could do something like kind of arbitrary, so it's not just like concrete and it's more open to interpretation. So I was thinking that maybe set up ranks in terms of destructive capability. So say like one rank, like you're a good fighter, but you don't necessarily have the ability to destroy a planet or anything like that. And then it moves on forward to like the Saiyan Arc tier, like where you can destroy a planet. And then it moves up to the Frieza tier, where people are like Super Saiyan strength, and then Cell tier and beyond. I think that'd be a pretty good, interesting rating system. I mean, it would definitely help us understand where everyone stands in relation to one another.
I actually kind of like that too when you're talking about one character versus another that we're seeing here, where we have basically Master Roshi probably. I mean, he blew up the moon, but can he blow up a planet? How much how much power does that take in relation to one another? Or we have in the manga, if you use the manga for scaling, like you're talking about, you have people like Cell who says, he's shaking the universe or the galaxy or something. He's shaking the galaxy with the Kamehameha wave that he was doing with Gohan. So it's just kind of left to interpretation, but that would be kind of a little bit more interesting and also kind of on Dragon Ball's level in terms of how they try to power scale. So when we look at that, I mean, I'm thinking myself, when they get to this tournament, they're going to need to, whatever power level scaling they do, they're going to need to do it quickly and very efficiently. And it popped into my head during the World Tournament right before Boo and all that stuff happened, where they were using kind of the punch scaling manufacturing thing, like when Goku was, they all had to like punch it really softly in order for it to actually register and not blow up the whole machine. Are we going to see something like that? You think like that would be an interesting thing, or how do you think they're going to do it? Is it going to be like a TSA line where they're basically going to scan your whole body and determine like, what is your inner power level or something like that? What are your thoughts?
I kind of think it would be kind of a cheap method to just have like a computer do it, but I like the idea of actually having a punching machine. I mean, the thing is that I like it and I don't like it because then you start introducing numbers. Uh-huh. So if there was like a magical punching machine that could never break, it would just make it to where power levels are reintroduced again in another form, like not necessarily power levels. And I kind of think it's bad for the series overall. Even though that was my specialty, I mean, I think it was great for the run that it had. Mm-hmm. But I think that power scaling everyone, like Goku's a 1 and then Super Saiyan is a 50, I kind of think that that's kind of outdated.
No, I understand where you're coming from. Be like, but what would be the thing? I understand, like, and I agree, the numerical system is somewhat dated. It lost steam during the original run of Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of hard to even do Z or Super now. So what would be kind of when you're talking about whether it's not a numerical but a alphabetical system or some kind of you can destroy a planet or you can destroy a universe, like what would be the mechanic? I mean, if it's not a punching machine, and I agree with you, it's a little bit too easy just to have people go into a machine and be like, this is this person, like, this person is this. Like, what would be the perfect, I guess, solution to that in order to power scale people but not make it, I guess, too redundant or too confusing for the audience? It's a tall order.
Definitely. I still think that the whole destructive capability would work. I mean, utilize someone like Botamo, like have someone shoot their most powerful ki blast into Botamo and then have like a crystal ball where they can view like the destruction that does to like an asteroid or some like dead planet or something like that, or even a live planet, like knowing how like lax everyone is towards like destruction these days.
Yeah, especially since the stakes of the Universal Tournament is just what they are. So no, like that's actually really cool. It'd be really interesting to see Botamo be utilized or something like Botamo, because that was always an interesting question of just how much he could take, whether it's unlimited or there's a certain amount of energy that his body just can't literally send to another dimension or universe or whatever that was. Interesting little concept there. And it would be funny to have just kind of tie him up or force him to be like basically the organic testing grounds for everyone's kind of power scaling.
God, that's twisted now that you think about it.
But like something very funny that Zeno would probably do is like, just make him, just like tie him up and do this, like because he's kind of a sadistic person anyway. Or what they were saying. Remember how Zeno apparently destroyed 6 universes. I mean, there's that much space around that no one's using. You could probably test it that way.
Definitely. Well, to be fair, Zeno is just basically Mega Evolution Chaozu, who's just pissed off that he was underutilized in the past.
Exactly. That's good. I've never heard that kind of explanation before, but yeah, like I could totally see that, especially since now we have two of them and we don't necessarily know how they're going to react to each other. You know, only one of them's chill with Goku, the other one is basically a wild card at this point, so it's just kind of we're going to have to wait and see how they interact with each other, or how they interact and make this tournament go around. But personally, I like the idea of giving us some kind of, kind of lax but very specific power scaling concepts that allow us to gauge just how strong each and every individual character are, but not necessarily, like you said, and I completely agree with you, it's probably too late and not good enough for us to go back to a numerical system. Now, whether that's a universal, planetary, or moon type of how much destructive power do you actually possess, or alphabetical or anything else. I mean, anyone listening to this, please go down to the comment section below and tell us what you think. Do you think that it should be one way or another? Is there an interesting idea that we're completely missing for the most part? And whether or not Botamo being basically an organic power testing scale entity would be funny or a little bit morbid, maybe a little bit of both, or anything like that. But man, Scouty, is there anything else like you want to say here? Like any other kind of tidbits you want to give in order to suggest like how they're going to do this?
Well, just one last thought that I really have on my mind is I think that if they introduce a numerical or kind of a grading system, I think it should be flawed just like power levels. I mean, because to me, I think that just the whole grading system and it being like fooling your opponent, like how in the Saiyan arc, like how like Vegeta was like, oh, these guys are near 1,000, but they can go way higher than that. Like I would, if they were to introduce a ranking system or some kind of numerical system, I think that it being flawed would work out the best. Like, I mean, it could read some levels, but I don't think that they should just read everything, because that takes away all the fun from the fights.
I agree. I feel like that's actually really interesting, and it goes into another stuff you've covered in the past about how not just being flawed, but one of the biggest lessons with Dragon Ball is basically how you can be weaker and still win a fight if you're more strategic and you don't just go in, fist blazing. And that's one of the things I think you and I are both hoping for this Universal Tournament, especially bringing the people that they're bringing with Roshi, Krillin, 18, 17, and Tenshinhan. Those people are going to go in there. Those people are going to go in there and, hopefully use some tactics. You know what I mean?
I hope so. I mean, they have the arsenal. They have the techniques. They have the battle experience.
And just seeing and I agree with you. Maybe that is a kind of a flawed system too, and just kind of reiterating the same lesson that we were taught in Dragon Ball Z. I think you're absolutely right. It's we don't necessarily know how to scale people, but then you have these people with decades or centuries worth of fighting experience, and they can tip the scales even if they're weaker. That's another good lesson for us to learn in this. Even if it's a kid's show, it's a good lesson to learn.
I agree.
Yeah.
And Dragon Ball wasn't always a kid's show.
It fluctuates back and forth, apparently. it grows up and then it grows up and then it becomes silly again. So, but anyway, no, I agree. I completely agree in terms of it should be flawed. It probably will be flawed, and we'll see people who should win, or basically who should win lose, and people who should lose win, and that's going to make it even more exciting. That's one of the reasons I think they should do it. It would build tension when you say this is one way, but it turns out to be another way. So anyway, yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean, tension is what we need.
Exactly. I feel like that's exactly what we need, and it would really help to elaborate on the tournament. So, any other good points like that, man?
I think that's it.
All right, guys. So, like I said, guys, please make sure to go check out Golden Scouter. His link will be in the description below. please make sure to go check him out. He does some really good content. Like he said, he really covers the manga, so if you're really interested in seeing his interpretation of how strong one person is or the other person is in Dragon Ball Z, mostly he covers, but also going into, like, one of his latest videos was the Bardock and the Bardock special and all that. So if you want to see exactly his interpretation of that via language in the manga and all this other stuff that he kind of accumulates and then also puts out there for you, please make sure to go check that out. Plus some awesome other content and reviews and everything else. So, like I said, please make sure to go check him out. Give him some love. Give him that sub button. Go see what he has. Like his stuff. Comment and everything else. You'll be a fan. Anyway, thanks for joining me today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Anytime. All right, we're gonna catch you on the next video. Bye.